Happy Saturday, guys. Welcome to the NFL Divisional Round. BettingPros live stream as we roll to a Saturday, not a Sunday, Saturday. Andrew Erickson, Matt Perrault with you guys. How are you, bud? Let's go. 4 football games to break down. Is this the best football weekend of the season, in your opinion?
Yes, I think it is. I think we have the Elite Eight, remaining. I think these teams are here for a reason, and we have a bunch of rematches. So I'm looking forward to that, seeing how teams adjust, especially with teams that, the Texans-Ravens game. These teams met back in week 1. I remember breaking that show down with you, Matt, and talking about, or it was the week after, and mentioning how John Harbaugh said after that game, this Texans team is going to win a lot of games. We should have listened to John Harbaugh when he said that, because what do you know? They're facing each other in the playoffs. So very excited about the matchups this week.
Kind of a bummer for the Texans, though. They start the year in Baltimore and they end the year in Baltimore. Kind of a bookend season for them. I do not like them to win the game today, but more on that here in just 1 second. Before we get rolling, a reminder about what's happening tomorrow, Sunday, right here on the BettingPros YouTube channel for a limited live betting experience. Chris Wells and Scott Bogman have you live starting at 2:45 Eastern, 11:45 Pacific time for the first half of Tampa Bay at Detroit for the Bucs and the Lions divisional matchup. We're entering the arena of real-time action with Locker, the daily fantasy app designed for everyday fans, perfect for those who love the thrill of quick decision-making and predictions. Watch live games and make predictions on upcoming offensive drives and make money quickly. Locker is designed for the NFL fan who loves the excitement of live sports and have a knack for predictions. Whether you're watching the game at home at a sports bar or on the go, Locker keeps you engaged with rewards for your sports expertise. Download Locker now and step into the world of live fantasy sports where your predictions could turn into real rewards. All right, let's start with the game that's going to kick here at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern on ESPN. Houston on the road. They are catching 9.5 points. Number opened up at 8.5. It's been bet up to 9.5 here for the Ravens and the Texans. Do you give the rookie sensation, head coach, quarterback dynamic duo a shot? Did I lose you?
No, it looks like you were frozen.
Oh, sorry.
No, all right.
You're back?
Yeah,
Hi.
you're back.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're back.
Do the Ravens, do you believe the Texans have a chance to win this game today?
No, I don't think so. I do like them to cover the spread at 9.5. I like the fact that they've been pretty solid as an underdog this season. You have the Ravens coming off the bye week, which I think works in their advantage to win the game. But do they start out slow? Is it more back and forth? And I know that week 1 seems like such a long time ago, but that game was 7-6 in the first half. And that Texas team was way worse than it was entering this game. It was CJ Stroud's first start in the NFL in the most hostile environment you could ask for. And that game was within striking distance for the Texans for the first half. And then obviously things kind of unraveled in the second half and the Ravens came away with a massive lead, but it wasn't as dominant a performance that the final box score suggested. The Texans had more yards in that game than the Ravens did. So again, the Ravens are a much better team too, which is why I like the over, honestly, 43.5 points. I think it's a lower number. And we've seen this Texans offense rip off big plays after big plays. Marlon Humphrey's not going to play for the Baltimore Ravens. So yeah, I think Stroud's got enough magic to make this game go over. Ravens games have gone over the total more often than not at home this season. And although the Texans haven't been good on the road offensively, I think the Ravens offense is going to push them a little bit to score points here. So I do like the over. I think the 43.5 is pretty low.
So let me push back a little bit. So what happened early in the year for this Texans team is they caught people off guard when they came into town. So they had good performances, obviously, against Baltimore. But then late in the year, they lost to the Jets and they lost to the Panthers on the road. They went 4-4 on the road in a team that really offensively looked completely different outdoors than they did indoors. This is going to be about a 25-degree temperature with breezy conditions. It's not going to be pleasant at all for a team from Texas, a dome team from Texas, going on the road to Baltimore to a rested team that's been sitting for 3 weeks waiting and hearing nothing but the narrative of, well, last time you guys were the 1 seed, you were 14-2 and you blew it. Last time Lamar Jackson was the MVP, you guys had a chance to go to the Super Bowl and you blew it. I think all this talk about Lamar in the first quarter, all this talk about Lamar in the first half, I think they've had it. I think the Ravens are just completely frustrated with hearing this narrative. And yes, I know Cleveland was the number 1 defense on paper last week, but their road to home split was ridiculous. This is a different type of defense they're going to be facing, and a team that's had a chance to sit back, wait, and watch. I don't like the 9.5 here. I think this game's going to get away from the Texans. And the only thing I could think to play is a first quarter Texans play if you want. But I've got 2 bets on this. I'm taking the 9.5. I'm laying it with the Ravens, and then I'm going to tease this thing down. I normally do 6-point teasers. I'm going to do 6.5-point teasers here because of the 9.5-point number to get down to 3. Last thing I want to do is to get hooked on a teaser. So I'll pay the extra 10 cents of juice to get down to 3 on this. If it goes over, do you like Stroud props? Because he had Tank Dell in the first matchup. He doesn't have Tank Dell here today. Nico Collins has been tremendous. Obviously, Humphreys being out is big here for the Ravens secondary. Is the reason the game goes over the Texans or because the Ravens score 40 points today?
I think a little bit of, I think a little bit of both, honestly. I think that they're 2 really solid offenses. And when you just look at the total, it's, people are worried about the weather, because it's cold. It's like, that doesn't, like, unless we're seeing like 25-mile-per-hour winds, like that, the weather's not going to influence the game total like most people think. So yeah. I think that you're getting value on the number. Like, that's the biggest thing, like 43.5. These teams have averaged over that number despite how bad the Texans have been on the road, despite Stroud missing games at points in the season. So they're still on average going over this number more often than not. The Ravens are an over team at home, and they're a team that pushes other teams to score points. Like, the Ravens are one of these teams where they play with their food. Right. If they're playing like a pushover team, they don't bring their best effort. And you see it happen, like with the games that they've lost this year, like when they lost against Pittsburgh, it's like they had no sense of urgency. Where now it's the playoffs. You talked about Lamar. It's like this team wants to prove that, hey, we are legit. We're going to win this game. We're Super Bowl contenders. So I think they're going to be full force because they know what the Texans can do, especially with John Harbaugh and what he said about this team back in week 1. Before anyone else really believed in them, the Ravens knew that the Texans had something cooking special. So I do like the over for props. I think the easiest one for me, Isaiah Likely, over 40 receiving yards. He's done that in 5 straight games as the starter. Mark Andrews is not going to play in this game. And the Texans are the number 1 defense in terms of yards allowed to tight ends.
Are we sure Andrews is out for sure? He's been ruled
out? That's
out?
where it's been trending. They said that he's not likely to be activated for the game.
Okay. I wouldn't play him if I was them. I mean, it's good that he's back to practice, but I think next week is going to be far more important, and I wouldn't risk it here. I know that's a little bit of a disrespectful thing to say about the Texans, but I think you can rest Mark Andrews, get him ready for next week, and make sure he's available for the Chiefs or the Bills. I'll be absolutely floored if CJ Stroud goes on the road, and as limited as their team has been at times this season, they scored 6 points against the Jets on the road. That they go in there and they score a ton of points here today. And this is actually a game in the 4th quarter, let alone have a chance to win the football game. And maybe we're watching the beginning of something incredibly special in Houston. And maybe this is, the next iteration, because when Patrick Mahomes was on the come up in his first full season, we all kind of were like, yeah, but I'm doing the but with Stroud. And let's see what he looks like on the road in his first playoff game outdoors in the cold, on the road at Baltimore, something that Patrick Mahomes has never had to do in his career. So I'm fascinated by this first game, and I think we're going to know pretty quick about how the Texans are going to approach it. Do you think they're going to run the ball or attempt to establish the run today? Because it feels like if they drop Stroud back constantly, that pass rush for the Ravens could wreak havoc.
Yeah, I think that they do need to try to establish a run. The Ravens are one of these teams where, their season-long statistics look good against the running backs because they're always winning games. So it just like naturally makes it harder for teams to rack up yardage. But when teams run the football against them, they have been efficient. Like, they've been one of the worst teams in terms of yards per carry allowed in the back half of the season. They've given up a lot of 100-yard rushing games. Guys like Kyron Williams, guys like McCaffrey, like those guys all had good games. And so Singletary's not that type of household name, but he's been effective since he kind of taken over as the RB1 in this offense. He's been consistently going over his rushing prop every single week. So if this game is at least not a blowout from the start, yeah, I think they should be able to run the football unless they have to abandon it if they need to play catch up in the second half.
Right. My other bet on this game is I like the team total over 26.5 for the Ravens. I think they're going to score. You can get it at FanDuel. Some books have already gone to 27.5. So 27 seems to be the number here. They scored 25 points against them in the first matchup. They averaged 31.9, I believe, points per game at home this season. One of the best home scoring offenses in the NFL, and this Texans defense can be had. I know they only gave up 21.5 points per game on the road, but they were not dramatically different, but number-wise, point-wise, everything was higher on the road as you would expect. And I think this Ravens team's got enough to get after it. If you like the over, I'm assuming you like Ravens over 26.5.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that one too.
So we'll see on that. What do you make of, do you believe that this game will hinge on the Ravens defense against the Texans offense? Could it be the other way around though? Could it be the Texans defense stopping the Ravens offense? Meaning if the game goes under, can the Texans win?
I don't think so.
Right.
I think it has to be on the, it's because Stroud does something magical. Like he's your best player. Like that's why look, the Texans defense has had its moments. D'Amico Ryans has obviously done a great job coaching that team up, but Lamar Jackson playing at this level puts so much stress. Like every coach talks about this, how like they hate game planning for the Ravens because they're different than every other team. And it's an offense that it's just so many things you have to account for. And we haven't even really seen the final form of this offense. Like we haven't seen all these guys, even these pieces like healthy. Like I think it's almost advantageous to them that they don't play Andrews at all till they get to the Super Bowl, it's like no team has seen this defense where they've had Mark Andrews and likely also on the field. Like now they're running 2 tight end sets. Like they haven't run this all year. It's like, so that's so much stress on opposing defenses that I think it'd be really interesting to kind of have him as their secret weapon in some of these later playoff games.
Don't mind it. I mean, either championship, Super Bowl or AFC. I think you're right on that. I'll hold off on it. All right, to the second game we go, and it's out west here on the West Coast. The number move, I saw it happening last night. It has happened across the board. Everyone is at 10. San Francisco laying 10 points at home against the Green Bay Packers. The number dipped down a little bit, opened at 10, went down to 9.5, and then has now come back up. The late money is coming in here on San Francisco. Man, I really want to like the Packers. I have bet the Packers plus 9.5. I want to believe that Jordan Love can go on the road. I want to believe this defense, even though they're trash on paper, can do enough to slow down the 49ers. And I like the over, but not get into like a monster crazy, 40-point performance out of this offense for San Francisco. Where are you on Packers 49ers?
We disagree on the Texans game, but I agree with you here. I'm on the Packers tier too, especially now you can get it's a Packers plus 10 at a bunch of different books. So it's an even better number. Look, the 49ers are probably going to win this game, but we've seen them not cover big spreads at home all year long. They haven't covered the spread at home their last 5 games. They've all been favorites. It has not mattered. They have not covered the spread. And when you look at historically the season, the last 10 games, it's been the road team that's covered in 49ers games. So it's the team that's the underdog. And that's who the Green Bay has been all year, an underdog for the most part. And they've been really great as underdog against the spread, especially on the road. So considering what they did to Dallas last week, I mean, and then they got to go on the road again. It's like, all right, 10-point dogs again, even though they just destroyed Dallas. It's like, look, I'll take the value there, man. Like Jordan Love's been balling out. This offense has so many pieces that they can score points. And if we're projecting a high scoring game, which the total suggests at 50.5 points, I'm going to take the team that is going to keep their pedal to the metal and keep trying to score points. And so that's the way I settle on.
I'm trying to thread a needle here, and I'm trying to play a game that might get my hand burned, but I'm taking the 9.5. You can take 10. I've teased it down, a 6.5 point teaser, like I mentioned, Niners -3. I think San Fran wins the game by 7. I think we're in a game in the fourth quarter. Here's my worry, and this is my one concern and why I liked 10 or 9.5 points for the Packers. If you took Brock Purdy, and I said there are 7 teams, of the 7 teams not named the 49ers who are left in the postseason, and you took Brock Purdy and you put him to replace the quarterback that currently is on that team, would that be an upgrade at the quarterback position at any of the other 7?
Man, let's see. So, I mean, I don't
think
the
only team I can come up with is the Lions and Jared Goff, maybe. Because it's not an upgrade to the AFC. The big 3, forget it. Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, forget it. You could make a case at CJ Stroud. You'd rather have CJ Stroud right now, given the way he has played. So the AFC is kind of out. The Packers, I love what Jordan Love has been doing. I mean,
it would probably just be Baker Mayfield, honestly.
I like Baker. See, I like
probably
Baker
what I would do.
I like Baker, so I wouldn't do that. I think the Lions and Goff is the only one. So that's the reason why I say that is because We saw it against the Ravens. Like, Brock Purdy can be a game destroyer if he plays really bad.
And I think too, you look at this Packers offense and what they've changed over the second half is they went for, I remember we talked about this on the show where we talked about the Packers can't score in the first half. Like, it was like comical.
Right,
And I
it's
remember
weird.
it was like a Steelers Packers game. I think it was like the first game of the second half was like, you got to smash the first half under. Neither teams can score in the first half. And of course, that was the game where they couldn't stop scoring in the first half. And that kind of ignited this Packers offense to being the number 2 offense in terms of first half points. Like, they figured out how to start fast. And how do you beat the 49ers? You get up on them quickly because they do not operate at the same level when they're playing from behind. Like, there's a reason why Kyle Shanahan can never win a game after halftime if they're losing.
Yeah.
Because their team is not built that way. If they fall behind, it's like, guys, well, we're screwed. Like our team's not built to win from behind. So if the Packers are aggressive again, like they were in Dallas, they steal possession here or there. Maybe they don't win the game, but within 10 points, I love that one.
Yeah, I like the over 50.5 because I think Love and company, I love the fact that Musgrove is back. I think he's such a big part of what Love does and his ability to buy time. Last week, that was the neutralizer for whatever the defense was trying to do for Dan Quinn. They were trying to run blitzers from different spots, and Love just was able to move around. And I know it's outdoors, so this is a different type of track they're going to be on, but the weather's going to be fine. And I expect a lot of big pass plays for this Packers team. And then Aaron Jones running the football. Everyone is saying bet the under on Aaron Jones running the ball. Do you agree? Because that was such a monster weapon that set everything up last week. I feel like the Packers have got to run the football today.
Well, I mean, A.J. Dillon doesn't look like he's going to play. I think he's questionable. And I mean, it's crazy how these teams are like, we don't have our bad player anymore. We have to use our good guys more. It's like, yeah, it's like it took them the entire season to figure out, okay, well, now that we can't use A.J. Dillon, we have to use our better running back. And that's why Aaron Jones has led the NFL in rushing since he came back from his injury in week 15. So, yeah, I think it's win or go home. So they need to unleash Aaron Jones once again. And that we've seen this 49ers, again, kind of like the Ravens, where when teams don't give up running the ball, you can run on this defense. It's just because teams fall behind. And I don't think the Packers are going to fall behind so massively that they abandon the run, especially with Aaron Jones playing as well as he is. So, yeah, I'm not touching any unders on Aaron Jones because he just gets too much volume with no A.J. Dillon in the lineup.
Brock Purdy to throw a pick? Yes or no?
Packers go up 7-0. It's going to happen. It's like,
I like Brock Purdy, but you look around and you're like, he was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. And we're starting to see teams figure this out a little bit about starting fast, scoring first. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to watch the coin flip because if the Packers win the coin flip, I bet they take the football. I bet they don't defer. I bet they say, we take the ball, let's go down there and score and put the pressure on the Niners. Like you mentioned, Purdy plays differently. They call the game differently when they're from behind. And Christian McCaffrey is, I think, going to have a pretty big game. I think in terms of if the Niners do win, if they do cover, do you feel like it's McCaffrey all day? He runs the ball for like 160 yards and 2 touchdowns?
Well, I think if you're Shanahan, like that's the way to mitigate any type of Brock Purdy, like internal collapse. Like just give the ball to McCaffrey. And if they can't stop the run, which we've seen the Packers like at times like not be able to do anything against the run, then he doesn't really have to. We've seen this offense win games where Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball 5 times against the Packers. So they don't care how they win. Like Brock Purdy doesn't have to put up numbers for them to win. They don't care. But if they give the ball to McCaffrey 25 times, he's going to rush for 150 yards. So yeah,
that would my only fear to the over is that exact situation. Yeah. Like if they throw the ball 5 times and they run the ball constantly and they completely bleed the clock, which might be the game plan, that's how that game could go under if you just don't have any points or enough time for Jordan Love and the offense for the Packers to score. But I think 31-24 is what I said for a final score. I'm going to try to middle it. I know that's sort of a little bit of a difficult thing when you're trying to throw a dartboard here and hit the bullseye, but that's why I've pulled the Niners down to 3 in the teaser, and I'm taking the Packers plus 10 now. You can take them at plus 10 here going into this game, and I think it's right in that 6, 7, 8 point range for the Niners. And I think you're right about the Niners covering. They haven't been great at doing that. All right, we go to tomorrow. Move on the Bucs. Tampa Bay. It was 6.5. It is now 6 or 6.5. FanDuel's at 6.5. DraftKings is at 6. BetMGM is at 6. Vegas is at 6. You've got a Baker Mayfield-led offense, which I don't think you like Baker nearly as much as I like Baker. But I don't think this Lions team is going to do anything. I like the over in this game at 49, and I like the Bucs to cover and potentially win. I think the ghosts are going to show up for the Lions here, Andrew. I am really tempted to take money line here for Tampa. Where are you on Lions Bucs?
I'm not touching the sides in this game. I still like Detroit, but again, like the spread is. I mean, Tampa Bay's been so good as a road underdog, like against the spread. They've just been a team every single week. It seems like they go on the road and they cover no matter what. So I don't really like the sides. If I had to pick a side, it'd probably be Tampa Bay with the points. But I like the over in this game. Like we've seen, these defenses can't stop anything. Goff plays so much better at home when he's not as pressured nearly as much. Like his splits when he's not pressured versus pressure, especially against the blitz. Like if the blitz doesn't get there, like he's going to throw like for multiple touchdowns in this game. Like they don't want Tampa Bay can cover. So again, we joke about this on all the shows where Ford Field is the Coors Field of the NFL. Like all that happens is games just go over the total. 14 of the last 18 games in Detroit have gone over 51 points. Like that's an absurd number for an NFL stadium. And it's because the Lions defense traditionally has just been so bad, and they've been bad in the second half of the season. So even though last week, somehow the game didn't go over, even though they scored like 40 points in the first half, that's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. Yeah.
I got that game way. I laid the 3 and hit the over and took the Rams and the under. So that crushed me last week. But what do you make of last week, though? Because every team that won covered but the Lions. And the Rams made 2 really interesting coaching decisions by, kicking a field goal down 4 and then punting with 4 minutes to go and asking a defense that hadn't done very much to get the ball back, which they did not do. So I was like, man, I don't know what to make of this, because I feel like if the Rams had gone more aggressively, the Rams may have won that game, and then we wouldn't be talking about the Lions sitting here. And I know this is the hardest ticket ever in divisional round in the secondary market, and Lions fans are going crazy. But like as a Red Sox fan, doesn't this feel like Red Sox 2003 all over again, where like you're taking on, even though the Bucs are not the Yankees, like the ghosts are going to show up here, like the bugaboos and the craziness and the bad news bear stuff. Isn't that what the Lions are going to walk into today? I don't think they're going to wind up winning this game. Like a part of me is like, man, great year, but you got to learn how to win. And they were lucky to win last week.
I think, but that was the test, though. I mean, like, there's a reason why that spread was closer than this one is. Like, Vegas is telling us this is a more inferior opponent than the Rams. And I think that there was so much more into that, where you have the Stafford factor coming back to Detroit, McVay and Jared Goff. Like, that game, I think, was more like personal for all the kind of parties involved, where it's like Tampa Bay shouldn't have, like, Detroit is like, wait, we don't have to play Dallas or Philadelphia. We get Tampa Bay instead. Like, projecting this playoff race, you never thought that Detroit was going to be able to go to San Francisco in the conference championship game without playing Dallas or Philly and beating one of those teams. And they didn't. They didn't have to, because Tampa Bay took care of business against the Philadelphia team that couldn't get out of their own way, and Green Bay beat the Dallas Cowboys. So I think Detroit's like, thank you very much. We'll take the easier matchup at home, and we'll go to the NFC Championship game.
That's the fear, though, right? They think it's going to be the easier matchup, and they don't take it as seriously, because if Jared Goff throws picks, if they can't run the football and they have to throw on every single down, you're asking Goff to do a lot, which he's not good at, and he could really have a tough afternoon. And then you have a secondary that I think is going to get torched. I mean, the Eagles secondary got torched. I think the Lions secondary is going to get torched here with the way that Baker's playing, as long as they can keep him upright. The offensive line for Tampa definitely is a question mark about the rush coming from the Lions. But from a prop perspective, Mike Evans dropped a touchdown pass last week that he should have caught in the first half against the Eagles. I like Mike Evans to score in this football game against the Lions. Where are you on props for this one?
I like all the overs. Yeah, this was one of these where it's like, if you're trying to max out a payment, you're just correlating player prop overs with Baker Mayfield passing yards and Mike Evans. It's crazy, because Baker Mayfield last week threw for like 350 yards. Neither Mike Evans or Chris Godwin went over the receiving yards prop, because it was these ancillary guys on the Buccaneers that were ripping off long yardage plays. Again, that's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. So it's going to be Mike Evans. It's a featured point. It's going to be Chris Godwin as the featured point. For me, the prop that I like the most is Amon-Ra St. Brown over 90.5 receiving yards. Ooh. He has done that in 7 of his 8 home games this year.
Wow.
Like, I've never seen such a high prop for a receiver that he hits so constantly when he plays in the dome. He doesn't have a game with less than 77 yards at home. Like, that's his worst game, is 77 yards in the dome. So talk about how bad Tampa Bay is on defense. It's going to be another Amon-Ra St. Brown show. We were on this over last week. the line is basically the same. It's like you can just alternate to 100 yards, get a bigger payout because that's pretty much what he does. He averages 100 receiving yards per game at home as Jared Goff's number one receiver.
Interesting. He stays healthy. I like the play a lot. So I've got a bunch of stuff rolling with that game. Obviously, I've got the Bucks plus 6.5. I've got an over on the 49 for both these teams, and then I'm teasing the Bucks up to 13 to correlate it with the late game. Bills laying 2.5 points up against the KC Chiefs. Just straight up, who wins this game?
Bills.
With you. I agree. Why?
Because I think that the Chiefs are just they're not the same. They're not the same juggernaut. Like look, they've been kind of getting by, but they've struggled throughout the year. And as much as the Bills like turmoil has been talked about, I think it's really been overblown. Like the offense has been good all year long. Like yeah, it's had some like ups and downs, but if someone's gonna put in the Superman cape, I'm expecting that guy to be Josh Allen and not necessarily Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it more from Josh Allen this year of him just doing it all. And you need that to beat a team like the Chiefs. So I get the Chiefs defense is elite and the Bills defense is hurt all over the place, but
banged up. Yeah.
Give me Josh Allen with the final drive and he's going to rush in the game winning touchdown. Like that's just what he's going to do. So I do like the Chiefs with the spread just because of, I mean, you look at any like factor. It's like you get Mahomes as an underdog, Gray as an underdog. Like all the trends are pointing to just taking the Chiefs with the points. And again, I think this game is going to be like a 1-point game. I think it's gonna be like razor close, whoever gets the ball at the end. So I think the value is on the Chiefs on the spread, but I think that we're gonna look up and the Bills are going to be in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I'll depends on how today goes for me. If I do well today, I'll probably bet Bills money line, Chiefs +9. I haven't played the Bills yet. I think the Bills win 2.5. You're right. The second this number goes to 3, it's getting batted right back down to 2.5. So the number is 3. The books want KC +3, or the pros want KC +3, and the books are really not interested in going to it. So that's why there's been some here in Vegas who have kind of tested the market and gone like, all right, what happens to go to 3? And then bam, you get the bet immediately to knock it back down to 2.5. So all the numbers point towards Mahomes. My problem with this is, and I do from a prop bet perspective, like both quarterbacks to go over their rushing prop. And if you want to bet both quarterbacks to have rushing touchdowns, I like that as well. Because I think Mahomes does have to put the Superman cape on. Yeah. And I think he's going to have to kind of sell out and do anything and everything to move because they're not going to have their full complement of wide receivers. We learned that today. Rice played unbelievable last week, but I don't buy it on a week in and week out basis that Rashee Rice is going to be a guy who can catch the ball for 7, 8, 9 times for 100+ yards and a touchdown. I think that was a one-time performance against a Dolphins team that was frozen solid and couldn't do anything. And I think the Chiefs offense is going to have to score touchdowns. They kicked way too many field goals in that game and they left Miami in the game and they were fortunate to be where they were. And I've been saying this all week. Like I go back to that roughing the passer call. There was a 2-hand touch that Mahomes got the flag on 3rd down that extended the drive and they scored the touchdown to go up 26-7. And like, if that doesn't happen, it's still a game for Miami potentially to be within striking distance. Buffalo's at home. They don't care about the cold. They're not going to play like Miami. Josh Allen is going to be a tank. We know what they do in the postseason. They let him run the football. They unleash him running the ball. He ran for 52 yards for a touchdown against the Steelers. Now, Steeler fans would say he faked the slide and that's why everybody stopped, but whatever, it still happened. Well, he did. So I think my issue with the Chiefs is they don't have the weapons. Like Mahomes can go crazy, but Kelsey has been, I mean, it's been what, 2 months since Kelsey has caught a touchdown? It's been forever for this team. And that's my problem. I think the Bills score. The Chiefs defense is good, but it's not like the 85 Bears. Like they're going to score 25 points or so, 26, 28 points on them. It's going to happen. And how many points will the Chiefs score? I just don't know. Where are you on the total? Because I really am having a tough time picking an over or under in this game.
Oh yeah, no, the total is tough because again, the trends are you should just bet the under. Like that makes a lot of sense. Both teams have been
KC,
like super
right?
under teams, but it's like again, if we have 2 Supermans going back to back, like I feel like you're going to see some points because of how elite these quarterbacks can be, even with all of the turmoil and the weapons, especially if they're running around. Like this is where they take more risk, and that's where you get and generate big plays. So for me, it was something that I was trying to wait out to see if I could get a lower number. Right now, it's like 45.5. Yeah. So again, it's probably just like a shy away for me, just because I think it's a good line. And
yeah, it's a good line because I mean, look, 24-20 is 44. It stays under barely.
Yeah.
But, 24-21, you're just, it's on the hook, depending where the number closes at. That's tough. But 28-24, it goes over. 27-21, it goes over. 27-20 goes over. So, I think both teams are going to score, in the 20s, but it just, you could still stay under by doing that. So I'm concerned just about where we are here for this KC offense, and knowing the defense is going to have to be really, really good and have to be great. Do you think there's any, I don't want to say concern, but if the Bills are trailing, they try to force the football down the field, knowing who they have with receivers, and they may have some advantages there that's where the Josh Allen pick could come, and it could.
Well, I think that not having Gabe Davis, I think actually makes a difference in terms of they're less likely to do that because that's his role on the offense, and he has been playing the last couple of weeks. So what are they doing on more tight ends? And I mean, it's been pretty positive, honestly. It's been good. Let's use the tight ends. Use some of these other, gadget players, Shakir, Deontay Hardy, guys you get the ball too quickly in the line of scrimmage, and then they break tackles. That's how they're generating some big plays. Whereas Gabe Davis, that wasn't his game. He's throw it to me deep or don't throw me the ball at all. That's Gabe Davis. So with him not playing, I think it actually makes it less likely for Josh Allen to be more aggressive downfield, which I think has kind of worked out better for the Bills in the last couple of weeks during their winning streak.
Yeah, he needs to avoid the big one. He has that big interception almost every single time these teams play, and it's just oh, Josh, what did you do? So hopefully that can be avoided. You avoid the Josh Allen face, which is that puzzled look of what did I just do? Seen that way too often here in this game. Bills fans finally have KC in their building. You finally get what you want. You can stop whining. We never get to play at home. They're always there. The refs always cook it for Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Well, now you've got it at home and you should get the calls and everything else. Buffalo, this is your time. You can't beat the Chiefs here. I'm not sure you're going to beat Mahomes. This is where Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were having this moment for a little while, and then they finally got it at home and they beat Brady. So can this be that moment here for the Buffalo Bills to get into it? What else do you like that we haven't talked about yet, Andrew?
I do like the Josh Allen rushing props too. I like it over on the attempts as well. If you look at the teams that he's played historically, there's no team he's run more against than the Chiefs.
Wow.
10.5 rushing attempts per game against the Chiefs in his career.
10.5.
Yeah.
What's the number?
It's at 8.5.
Oh my. Yeah. Okay. I love that. Wow.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's when they face Kansas City, he knows he has to put the Superman cape on. He's ready to do it, and that's in the data. He runs against them, not by accident. He knows he has to do it. And the other thing, too, is with the Mahomes, you mentioned him rushing. Mahomes hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. He has 0 touchdowns. So his number is plus 600 for anytime touchdown because he hasn't scored yet this year. Yeah. It's because he hasn't scored all year. So, yeah, take advantage of that.
Oh, my. That's just a principal play.
Yep.
Wow. 6-1 just on that on a principal play. I think you have to take that. Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. All right. So what outcome today shocks you the most? If it happens.
If the 49ers lose.
You're what happened? Watch the Shanahan press conference. How did you lose?
But
every year we have
the Packers do it again. It's
every year. That's why I think it's the Bucs. Every year we've got that little engine that could that fly in the ointment. That team that stunk all year. That you're really, this team might make it to the Super Bowl. Give me a break. And they get hot at the right time. And they just ride that wave into the postseason, and they ride through the tournament. And that's why I think the Bucs are going to beat the Lions. And then I think it's going to be Bucs against San Francisco. I don't think the Packers are going to win the game. I think they're going to put a massive scare on the 49ers today. And then, Chiefs, Bills versus the Ravens. Which is a better matchup? Ravens, Bills, or Ravens, Chiefs?
I think it's Ravens, Bills. I think that's a better matchup.
I agree. I think
if you're a Lions fan, basically what you want is something weird to happen today. So you're not the game that's weird tomorrow. So if everything goes status quo today, it's this isn't good.
Go Pack. So just again, I'm on the Ravens minus 9.5, but I'm also teasing it down to 3. Packers plus 9.5, but I'm teasing the Niners down to 3. Ravens team total over 26.5, over 50.5. We both like that. Bucks plus 6.5, over 49 for Detroit. Bills minus 2.5, and then a teaser with Chiefs plus 9 and the Bucks plus 13. Do you have a favorite bet for the weekend?
Jaden Reed is playing tonight. Over 3.5 catches. That's his prop. He had 0 catches last week because the Packers were killing the Cowboys and they didn't have to use him at all. He's going to be used this week against the 49ers. They've allowed the 5th most catches to wide receivers. And before last week, Jaden Reed had 4 catches in 8 straight games.
Wow.
8 straight
How about
games.
that?
Yeah.
And,
So
and
Jaden
what's
Reed
the
over,
price?
I think it was minus 125.
Oh,
A little juicy, but
it's all right.
They're going to have to throw. Like, he's going to have more volume in this game than he had last week.
Especially if they get behind, man. If they get behind, they'll be throwing it every down. So that's why AJ. I get the idea. Like, we're not going to run the football. We're gonna go and say, okay, this is gonna be all Jordan Love. Jordan Love attempts I've seen. Jordan Love yardage I've seen. Over 1.5 touchdown tosses for Jordan Love. I've seen all of those props. I don't hate any of them. It's just game script for this game is really interesting because it could go 2 very different ways. And if they run the ball, the Packers aren't going to throw nearly as much. If they can establish the run, they'll want to do what they did last week, which is play action and have bigger plays down the field, but not the consistency, not the number of throws to keep Jordan Love away, because he could make that big interception and that big turnover that could blow everything. So really cool. Guys, if you downloaded the Betting Pros app yet, if you haven't, really cool to do so. A lot of this information that you've heard from Andrew, a lot of the stuff that Andrew writes, it's all up in there. You guys can go and sync and track all your bets. You get one app for all of your sports books. You can view your performance across sports, bet types, and books. You can trail other users who are hot as well. It is a free download in the App Store and the Google Play Store, and you can see how your betting instincts will stack up against others on the Betting Pros app. Go get that today. You're back for the Super Bowl, right?
We got the trio. We're breaking up the big guns. Me, you, and Fitz.
All of us. For Super Bowl. I have no idea where I'm going to be on Super Bowl Sunday here in Vegas. I have no clue. I just know it's going to be a chaotic week, and I'll probably be as hungover as hell by the time we talk next time on Sunday. But it's going to be fun to see who winds up coming here to Las Vegas. By the way, if the red and purple thing, everyone said it's Niners and the Ravens, that's the logo controversy. What if the Bucks are the red team? What if that red is not San Francisco? What if it's Tampa Bay? You know how pissed off people in Vegas will be if it's Tampa Bay against Baltimore? The money from Silicon Valley in the Bay Area coming down here with the Niners, everyone's already like banking on it. They're like, oh, when San Fran comes here, it's going to be unbelievable. I'm like, yeah, but when that gets happening, normally it doesn't happen. So we'll see. Andrew, best of luck in your bets. Thank you very much. Andrew Erickson, Matt Perrault. We're back next week for a championship version of the NFL live stream right here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel.